Let's jump into things. It's a little bit later this morning, just past 11, so 3 past 11 to be precise. What a hectic night overnight. Geez, we had US CPI out, and if we flick across quickly, so I'll just refresh this one so we get some up-to-date numbers. We can see that sort of, oh wait, where was it? It was 2.5%. Here we go, 2.5%. I'm sure that sort of midweek this expectation was 2.6%, and then it sort of seemed to be the expectation changed to 2.5%. Regardless, it's down from previous, which was 2.9%, and it came in as expected. So you see a little bit of a tick up on the core month over month, but the rest of it pretty much as expected. And the reaction from the market was just crazy because, you know what I mean? Like, for some reason, this sparked an incredible dollar buying rally. So actually, let's flip across, start with the dollar. And as you can see here, we had this nice wedge break from yesterday, which actually, let's just see, did that measured move play out? So that would be your measured move through here for you. That's your measured move for that wedge. So it wasn't like, okay, this is going to reverse and it's not necessarily going to be the end of all down here. But certainly, there's your wedge. This is where we had that um, debate, which was an absolute farce, started going on yesterday. And as you can see, US dollar got smacked, came down here. It was looking like it was coming up for a retest to come on and then just roll over and then bang, drop down again. But as I said, the US CPI, we knew that was coming, obviously, and we knew what the expectations were. So you would think, to a certain degree, the market is positioned for that. I mean, that's the whole point of it. Here's the expectation. I mean, this is what people are going off. Obviously, they're doing, like, the larger people, the people that really move the markets. They're doing their own in-house kind of analysis, of course. But the point is, it's sort of like, the market as a whole would, they generally say, look, it's pricing for this bit of data to come out. And that's why you see people front run positions. This is why we've seen all this massive sort of selling of the US dollar in anticipation for rate cuts coming. And, we're on the cusp of that just next week. We get the FOMC. But regardless, for whatever reason, it sparked this massive drive on DXY, and we saw this big push up here, and the movements around the data drop were just insane. Like, DXY was pretty straightforward. If we look at this on the 15, you could see this wasn't really too much of a thing. It was just bang straight up, and then just really started consolidating in this top group over here. But I don't trade sort of indices in that. Like, I chart them. I've got mates that trade them. But I did have a little stab at this yesterday, and I bought at 52. So I don't. This shows how much I don't really know the numbers. I bought at 54.20. So I bought just down here. So I absolutely nailed this trade. I sort of woke up midnight or something, or midnight, sort of 3 a.m., whatever, halfway through my night. And I think I got out around, no, it's probably a little bit less, so maybe around the 60s over here. And look at this run. Jesus, that is a huge reversal. And the reason I'm showing this at the moment, look at that, came in perfect on the 161 retracement of that drop down. The reason I'm highlighting this because this is very much the indication of what happened. So we had the news come out, it dumped down, it drove back up. The drive back up after the news, after the data had come out, made the drop down look small. But then we had the next rollover, which came down even further and made these look tiny. And then we had the next move that even made that look small. So you know what I mean? Like, at first, this dropped 97, that dropped 30 points. It went up 45 points. It went down 90 points. It went up 130 points. You know what I mean? Like, that is absolute craziness. That is just all over the market. And that's like, and I think this is the reason I'm highlighting this at the moment is because I think this is a testament for the times at the moment. I think sort of people don't know what the outcome should be given the type of data because for so long we've been looking at it and sort of going, oh well, rates coming down, sort of inflation coming down, less reason to cut because the rates at the rate we're at now, inflation CPI coming down, less reason to cut so they can hold rates for longer, so that would be stronger for the currency. Like that's just the way we've been playing it for months and months and months. And now all of a sudden, people are sort of having to remember and readjust and go, well, hold on, wait, CPI is now at target. Well, what does down CPI mean? Does that mean that sort of like we should be buying US dollar when they've got cuts coming next week? Well, to me, it doesn't seem like that, but the market seems to have pushed up over here. And even this morning, if we have a look at DXY, we've got a fairly decent, like in terms of the gaps, it's got a fairly decent gap up. So, these are the things definitely to sort of be sort of like sort of paying attention to because, as I said, like, it's slowly trying to move along. We've seen this is actually the measured move of this channel. As you can see, this is just sort of completed. We actually completed with the highs last night before it came back down, and it's pushing back up a little bit this morning. But if you look at a couple of the other things, I'm seeing metals at the moment take off. Well, sorry, I say take off. It's moved off its lows and that, so it's $3 off its lows or so for gold. But we're seeing DXY come down now, looking like it wants to 11 o'clock sort of volume coming in. It's looking like it wants to at least sort of close this gap. So let's see if it takes out the gap and then goes and continues down, then I reckon we're going to get a pretty strong push on a couple of these USD crosses and on metals as well. And that's what I've been sort of trading alongside of, obviously for a little bit here. So DXY, in short, look, it's sprung back to life. I think we've got, as I said, we've got ECB tonight. They're expected to cut. So ECB makes up 60 odd percent of DXY. So it stands to reason that this move through here is probably a little bit more sort of isolated to euro. So obviously, sort of with the cut sort of coming for them, that's going to be weakening. So it looks like it's sort of going to be pushing off here, opposed to sort of like more sort of US dollar buying across the board. Because I'll flip on to Aussie in a moment, and even though this is pushing up against its highs, Aussie's pushing at its weekly highs, so potential breakouts as well. So that's certainly interesting sort of price action at the moment. Little gap up, close the gap, and see what happens. If you come back out, let's move this alert up here now. We saw obviously sort of you can see this through here. We had a little bit of support come in here last night. Actually, let's get on to something more decent, like an hour. Let's call it this one here. So this is where. Whoops. So this is where you want to see a close underneath. And probably, as I said, realistically take out these wicks, but a close down underneath 64 will sort of say that, okay, it's had its fun up here, and most likely you come back down here to sort of test, as we know, this sort of yearly open kind of level, which it seems to be sort of really oscillating around and sort of hugging a little bit here. So overbought in the 1 hour. Let's have a look on the 4 hour. 4 hour, no, it's 4 hours got room to move if it does decide to close the gap and then try and push back up here. But as I've said, sort of this is the plan from yesterday. Anytime you get up here, we're going to want to sort of try and sell these down till we get confirmation and sort of reason to actually have US dollar be bought up a little bit higher. Till then, I think it's just sort of sell the rallies. We've broken some major levels, and realistically, till you get above 102 and change, and then you're sort of looking up to that sort of 102.50, I think it's really still just a sell the rips kind of thing. So let's have a look on the daily. Yeah, look, it's just at that gap up. Uh, let's see what happens. I think sort of first things first, you got to close that gap. Once it closes the gap, we'll sort of see what happens with the rest of the market. Yeah, so I just had to check a couple of sort of gold positions there. So I was sort of I bought on that dip last night, and I thought I'd sort of moved a couple of my sort of TPs, but I did move some of them, but I locked in some around 18, so very close to the top of that spike up there before obviously it dribbled back down. So anyway, see how the rest of this session goes. So DXY, first things first, let's see what happens when it closes this gap. If it does come out the bottom side, well, as I said, we know the kind of levels that we're going to be targeting. It'll be sort of like go back to that data point level, and then underneath that, you've got 101 sort of 34, this kind of area down here. That's really your area now to get underneath for downside moves. So you've got a couple of layers of protection to sort of see if this can hold around here. Sometimes you do tend to find with these little sort of consolidation boxes. See how you've had a little swing out this side? It's like a pendulum and it'll come up and it'll swing out this side and maybe just sort of come back in here. So realistically, I'm not expecting major breakdowns at the moment. If anything, I think sort of like it may actually rally a little bit once it closes this gap. Like there's got to be a reason. And as I said, I think it's the ECB tonight that has opened up and gapped up this morning. But you know, downside I would say would be limited to around sort of 101.45s and really just come back in to sort of continue this sort of little range a little bit. It's had its fun out the top, smacked on the nose, but I don't think that's necessarily, it's not big enough to go big liquidity grab and then bang down over here. I think at best it'll sort of come back and just sort of play around this sort of top end area over here. Generally, after these sort of like large, violent sort of moves, we see the market sort of really sort of take a few moments and take the at least the Asia session, which is kind of like a few moments in market talk, the Asia session to digest the move and sort of so it most likely will be relatively quiet through the session today. But let's see. All right, so flip across, we got gold. Gold again, look, the sellers in the 20s are just unrelenting. Look at how many times it's come up here. But the thing is, it's tapping it each time. It's not coming down. Let's put this over here. It's not falling short and putting in lower highs. It is very much confirming this top end resistance. So that's definitely sort of shoring up for a major breakout level. But not only that, if you look at, and this is the thing that I highlighted yesterday, a whole bunch of consolidation boxes around here, but the main thing here is we saw the drive up getting ready for the news, came up, tapped in, NFP, didn't get it, bang, sold down. Saw the drive back up here, coming in, CPI, didn't get it, bang, sold down. But look at where they actually sold down to now. And this is very important because if the buyers have moved up and they're sitting here, you see the direction that they're doing. They're squeezing this at the moment. And this is really coming into a sort of a big sort of ascending triangle. Generally, you see ascending triangles through the top of a trend, but certainly at the moment you can see buyers are here, buyers are here, buyers are here. Buyers are really squeezing this to sort of force some sort of action soon. We're either going to get a break and these buyers are going to go, no, it's not working, and we're going to come back down over here. Or we're going to see them push up, push up, push up. Look at how many times it's hit this sell area. You know what I mean? Like there's only so many bullets that these people could be holding in this level before it goes crack and just pops out the top side. You know what I mean? Like the thing is, people saw this move on Friday and it sold all the way down. I sold it down here. I've been buying through this week. Buy back up here, comes down here. Well, you know what I mean? They're expecting maybe this same move here to come back down over here, continue this range, but it's not. The buyers are moving, and this is the whole point, and this is what I say to people, like particularly people that don't trade and don't use. I'm like, look, the chart will tell a story, and they're like, oh yeah, whatever, whatever. But that's more just them being naive. I mean, as I said, you can see literally what is happening in this instance. You know, if you want to put the sort of it on the other side. I don't know if I've got a template for sellers, do I? Called sellers. There's the sellers. You know what I mean? Here's what's going on. Here's your sellers. Here's your sellers. Here are your sellers. Here are your sellers. Here are your sellers. And you can see this happen time and time again. And you can see the tussle, the battle between these guys. The buyers are moving up. The sellers are holding the line. So either we're going to get a break of this sort of rising trend line here. So let's make it a little bit more accurate. Make it like this. Either we're going to see a break of this level and we come back down to 2480 or potentially even a breakdown here. But it's certainly at the moment is seeing like the buyers are putting the pressure on each time. The closer we get to FOMC and the closer we get to a potential break. And again, these things, like as I said, this is the range here. That's your measured move target out the top side here. So again, if we get a break above sort of, 25.30s, I mean, we got right up into it again last night, but as you can see, time and time again, we've done it over and over and over. So the buyers are moving up, sellers are holding the line. We're going to see some sort of reaction around this area over here. So you can cut this stuff up a bunch of different ways. Obviously, consolidation boxes, and we can see it's consolidating in the top area here. I mean, go back and watch all the videos. I go through it day by day as these things happen. But right here and right now, we're seeing the buyers put some little pressure onto the sellers, and they're not waiting back down here at 24.80 to sort of like get back long. They're going, look, you know what? I'll buy it at 25.05, which we've marked out. Like this is the mid-range point, and this is what I've been saying. You got your large range, then you got your mid-range point. Top side here, we got into the top side of the range. You got a mid-range point. So it's very important to understand these sort of things when you're sort of trading them, of course. But yeah, I think sort of we're going to see a bit of a reaction soon. Either we're sort of coming back down here to 24.80 with a failed move through here, or we're going to see a potential breakout to the top side. As I said, FOMC next week, that would be the most likely candidate for the catalyst for a major break or a major breakdown. I think that's what really the market's looking forward to at the moment to sort of see what happens. So that's a bit of the bigger picture. If we look at the sort of lower sort of stuff here, look, above sort of 25.20, we'll see a move into the top half of this range. But at the moment, we've just got this little small range over here. So 25.08 to 25.18. And yeah, look, get a close at 25.18 on an hourly, which we're on here. I think 25.30 is a potential. We're seeing a little bit of an open sort of move up early in the session. Obviously, sort of, the buying pressure is pushing up here a little bit. We can tell with the RSI. So, see if this can sort of follow through. Watching what DXY will really do once it comes in to close that gap. If it closes the gap and decides to have another push, well, I think that's it. And I think we're basically just going to be bouncing between 2,500 and 25.18 or 25.15. So around this kind of sort of area here. So we'll see how we go for that sort of follow through there. But I think certainly it's getting to a point where we're seeing these buyers and sellers coming closer together, which is going to force a reaction from one of the two sides pretty soon. All right, and silver sparking back to life again. So this is one that I sort of put up yesterday because we came through here and took out this price target. So if you put this on the 4 hour, this is what I put on what's it called on I think the weekend wrap. And we got that smash down here. And I was buying silver, and you know what I mean? My idea isn't to sort of buy here and hold it all the way here. Mine's like buy, sell, buy, sell all the way through here. Came up here. And as you can see, there was a reasoning behind why we put that price target there. Reason that I sort of said, okay, boom, and it smashed it. It took it out. Not only that, you got to look at the time of where it sort of hit. It's come through. Where are those little arrows? Go back to this color. Boof. Come through as being rejected as it came into contact with this falling resistance. It got hammered down last night. I've been lucky to actually have bought these dips 2 times this week, which is it's getting a little bit sort of risky because you kind of think eventually these dips aren't going to be bought up and they're going to go bang and just fall right over. But my idea and the theme and the way that I'm trading this thing at the moment is that we have more upside up to high 29s at least to test this major falling resistance over here. You can see it got rejected from this sort of falling resistance. It's bounced back up and it's just come straight back at it. It's hungry for it. So we're hitting into this sort of horizontal area here, which we can see has been time and time again. It's been a swing point for it all. So if you get above sort of 29, so let's put an alert here. This one here. Above 29, I would say confirmation. So let's say through falling resistance. And that way you're sort of through your falling resistance, you're through your horizontal. You've got a couple of little wicks to contend with here, 29.18, 29.10, these kind of areas over here. So you know what I mean? The idea. So ideally you want to close up around here, 4 hour, the better. We are seeing it a little bit overbought as well in this push. So there is a chance that we just sort of really consolidate this area around this zone over here. But I think your little sort of battleground area that you want to see a break outside at the moment is this kind of area through here. So this is your kind of little breakout box that you want to see a break above if you're wanting to get it long, and a below if you're trying to sort of short this thing. I'm not trying to short it, so we'll see how we sort of go with it all. We'll see in DXY, try to hold that sort of upper range, and that's obviously putting a little bit of pressure on the metals. All right, flip across, we got Aussie. Aussie really sort of sprung back to life after that drop off last night, and this is what I was talking about with the price action around that moment. Look at this move as the data drops, right? Where was it? That's 7. This point here. Yeah. So data drops. It drops like a stone. 65 down to 36. That's 30 points. So 30 points on Aussie is a big drop. Bounces back up, back up into the 60s, and then bang down even further. And even once that's sort of done, the move back up goes back up above all this thing. And it's actually broken out, as you can see, of this sort of main first level that we've been looking at, we've marked out, and it's trying to hold the top side of this move. And this is why sort of, you mark these things out and you say, okay, this is what we're looking for, because here you go, sellers, 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 broken through. Now they're buyers. Now they're buyers. So you want to see, obviously, a continuation, a move a little bit higher here. We are sort of coming into that little, love the sort of map on here. So this was the idea, the plan that I had through yesterday. Sort of a bit of this. Obviously, this one came down. Whoop, this leg here came down a lot further than I had sort of vaguely planned out. But it is what we're expecting. The sellers were where we expected them, came down here. Okay, yes, it dropped out the bottom here. Aussie loves to do these little fake out moves. If you go back and look at Aussie, particularly on the higher time frames, it'll have these supports time and time again, drop out the bottom, looks like it's failing, and then rip back up. These can be very strong reversals, particularly for Aussie. I'll see if I can pop it onto another chart that I had. Don't know if this one, if I deleted this thing here. Get a couple of these out of the way. But you can see these sort of things here. These are on the higher time frame. I actually had this done better than this. No, I don't. I may have sort of deleted the drawings on this one. But regardless of it all, you can see support, support, support. Looks like it's failing. Bang, rips right up. Support, support. Everybody knows this one. This has just happened the other week. Support, support, support. Looks like it's failing. Springs back up. Down here twice. Springs back up. So this isn't sort of like a, oh my God, sort of what's going on here. This could potentially be a big reversal for Aussie. We see it perfectly set up with the RSI. It's oversold. It's ready to sort of turn back up. It hasn't turned up yet, but it is ready to turn up, and it's right down the bottom of oversold. We've got a very strong bullish looking reversal candle, which managed to hold the 38%. Remember, 66.40 was the level that I've been looking for since we were above 68. So really sort of coming back down there. It's held it very well. So at the moment, we're in this pullback leg, and we're looking to get this break to push us back up over here. Now, with these things, there's a lot of levels to sort of get through. So it's not like easy sort of chop kind of thing. Like, these ones where you just carve through them, sometimes you can just carve back through it. But realistically, it's going to be a little bit of sort of tough work. But if we do see DXY and US dollar as a broad sense sell down, and we see metals break out, these are going to be the catalysts that sort of really get Aussie moving and sort of pushing for that breakout. So that's a bit of a broader view there. Let's have a look in the short term. As I said, look, it's back up above that range. You want to see it hold this range here, because this is its time. It's make or break time, and that really you want to get above the weekly opens. Remember, it spiked up in Monday morning, came up to 66.88, put in that high, and it's just been bang and just in a range since. So, it's testing out the top side. We had a little bit of a spike this morning to mid 80s. You want to see it hold this zone here. It's looking a little bit overbought in the hourly. Doesn't mean that it can't, sort of things. Things can stay overbought for a long time. But really, got to sort of see, are they going to sell DXY down? Or are they going to sort of try and hold it in that upper range? That's really what I'm looking for there. If we see it hold in that upper range, I think there's a chance that we come back down a little bit lower with Aussie before we do have another attempt. But as you can see, this pullback area here is starting to round out a little bit. We have that little spike down here, dragged in a bunch of shorts, stopped out a bunch of longs, and it's fired right back up. This is the perfect setup to then sort of have these people here go, oh, you know what? No, I'm going to hold it. And they squeeze and squeeze and squeeze. And squeezes are the ones that can move quite well and generally in one direction because they just stop after stop after stop being hit. So yeah, we'll see how we go with this one. You want to sort of see it stay above, realistically, probably above 70 for now, which is 73, so it's on the cusp of. If it does come back down over here, look again, sort of around 60, I reckon 60, 70. I think it's going to be a fairly quiet sort of session through Asia. And then if you do get a move to the top side, it's lining up pretty perfectly. Like we have this circle here with the horizontal highs, with the falling resistance coming in at the same time. So if you can break through here, I think this is going to be the time that we sort of see them step on the gas and Aussie sort of really push back up into, 70, I think the sort of, 67.50, that kind of area, these highs just before the NFP. I think that's kind of the first target where we're going to see some selling happening because remember, it spiked up here, caught a whole bunch of people out and come back down. So when we look for our targets, we're going to be looking here. We're going to be expecting something coming back over here as well. There's going to be other areas because you can see this area through here, through here, through here. This is also going to provide a little bit of resistance. So it's not going to be like a bang straight there, but as I said, particularly with my style, you take bits off along the way. But they're the two sort of immediate targets I'm looking for on a break of 66.90. All right, flip it over to copper. Copper has really sort of been holding up very well. You know what I mean? It kind of sometimes it can be very sort of touchy, but most of the time it's off doing its own thing. Look, it's played very much sellers, 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 sellers. It's through this falling resistance now. We can see a little break, a little back test. Now's its time to charge. We've got the alert set up there because we know that this band through here is quite a strong resistance area. You've gone through the falling resistance. You've seen that the buyers are moving up. The buyers are moving up, just like I saw with gold before. Sellers are sitting in this band. Buyers are moving forward. You want to see, excuse me, a sort of march on with the buyers here. So above, 4186, this little alert that we've got over here, I think we could see a bit of a continued move with copper, and you can see that buy zone really held quite strongly down here. So it is testing the top side of its range. Look, if it fails, well, bang, back down. We know where it's pretty much going to be targeting. There's a couple of smaller ranges through here, but more or less just on with the show sideways for it all. But again, I'm not looking to. I think this does have upside, so I'm not looking to short it. Particularly shorting it into sort of resistance. Well, not so particularly into a resistance, I suppose. If you're going to give it a shot, that's where you're going. That's where you're going to short it and put your stops above it. But yeah, that's not what I'm looking for at the moment. I think the risk is more that it sort of just rips out even further to the top side here, other than if it comes down here and then just gets bought up and then moves up again. So we'll see how that one sort of plays out. And finally, just finish off with China. Look, China got smacked yesterday. I thought it may have put in a little bit more of a rally up to this area over here before getting sold down, but it just got sold straight down. And this sell down came down on that debate. So as I said, then this is why it's important to sort of look at DXY, look at particularly the yuan, because the yuan is a good representation of sort of more Asia US dollar strength. Because Asia, China, well at least China's like Australia's biggest trading partner. Stronger yuan is generally a sign of things not too bad over there. Not too bad over there will means they're going to be buying more stuff from Australia. It means the Aussie dollar is going to be a little bit more in demand because you've got to settle those purchases in the local currency. Like we're not sort of taking payment for the iron ore in US dollars. We're taking it in Aussie. So that means the demand is up for the Aussie. So it's something to sort of keep an eye on, particularly if you are trading Aussie. Look, it did spring back to life. It is up around this area over here. Be watching to sort of see if it does take out those highs from the debate. Let's call them debate highs. I think it's going to be sort of really just stuffing around this area over here. I don't see any reason for it necessarily to be breaking up higher, 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 and US dollars sort of be buying across the board. But we'll have to sort of see how that one sort of plays out. Okay, so that's it for the charts. In terms of news, not a great deal going on, certainly through Asia. Look, a lot of this sort of stuff, lower tier sort of stuff with China. So refinance the rate. So wow, they're expecting a 60 base point cut. Is that right? That's a big cut. It's an odd number as well. Like people talk about 50 base point, but this is coming in at 60 base point cut. That's a big cut. And again, this is probably why I was saying before that you're seeing DXY gap up this morning because people are probably sort of thinking, wow, it's going to be a big cut on euro. Euro makes up 60% of DXY. Well, get out of your euros, that pushes the DXY. But, as we saw, Aussie is still pushing at its highs. So I know Aussie isn't part of DXY, but it's still balanced against the US dollar. So as US dollar is sold off broadly, you would expect Aussie to get a bit of a smack as well. But we saw equity markets spring back to life. That's risk on. We saw, DXY is obviously holding up to the top side, but we've just sort of addressed that. Aussie sort of springing back to life. That's risk on. A couple of the metals, particularly copper, moving up. That's risk on. So you've got to sort of take all these things into account and sort of say, what are we actually seeing? And most likely we're seeing a little bit of sort of, risk appetite up at the moment. So that, again, feeds into why I sort of think these things have got upside moves to come. So we've got, as I said, that's 10:15 tonight that we've got the ECB. 15 minutes later, we've got PPI, so it's Producer Price Index for US. Look, I don't follow it enough as to sort of know how big are these impacts are going to be. So that's one for me to sort of probably take some notes on as well. We are at the moment seeing sort of metals push a little bit higher. And then we got unemployment claims, press conference, a couple of bits of data coming out through US. As for that, I think that's pretty much almost it for the week. Look, Friday's looking pretty quiet again, even Friday night, a couple of sort of, consumer sentiment and these kind of things. Nothing sort of major market shifting kind of stuff. So we'll see how this plays out through the end of the week. And as I said, tee up for the big one, which is FOMC next week. All right, that's it for me.